Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. Tonight, you are invited to rest with the idea of human memory, not as something to train or measure, but as a soft, living process that quietly carries experiences forward. Memory is not a cabinet of files or a machine that records every detail. It is more like a slow-moving current shaped by rest, emotion, repetition, and time. Some moments settle gently and stay, others fade without resistance, and many change their shape as they pass through the mind. None of this requires effort. Memory does what it does best when it is allowed to relax. This journey is not about improving memory or holding on to information. It is about noticing how memory already supports daily life, quietly and patiently, without urgency or demand. If these calm explorations bring you comfort, you are welcome to like or subscribe so others may discover peaceful science too. There is no obligation, no pressure, and nothing you need to decide right now. As you listen, there is nothing to remember and nothing to understand fully. You do not need to follow every idea or hold on to any thought. Allow your breathing to slow in its own time. Let your shoulders soften and your jaw relax. If your attention drifts, that is perfectly fine. Memory can wander, and sleep is welcome at any moment. You can rest, knowing that everything meaningful will settle on its own, without effort, without direction. Let's begin. You begin to notice how memory does not follow the same rules as time. Some moments pass quickly, barely noticed as they happen, yet they leave a quiet imprint that stays with you for years. Other experiences stretch on for hours or days, and then soften, fading into the background of the mind. Memory does not measure importance by duration. It listens instead for something gentler, something quieter, something that resonates beneath awareness. A brief smile, a passing sound, a single sentence spoken at the right moment can settle deeply, while louder events drift away more easily than expected. As you rest with this idea, it becomes clear that memory is selective without trying to be. It does not judge what should matter. It responds to subtle signals, to emotion, to context, to the state of the body and mind at the time an experience occurs. A moment that feels calm or meaningful can slip smoothly into long-term memory, even if it lasts only a heartbeat. Meanwhile, moments filled with noise or urgency may struggle to find a place to settle. There is nothing deliberate about this. Memory moves in its own way, shaped by gentle chemistry and quiet patterns of connection. When something brief leaves a long echo, it is often because it arrives when attention is soft rather than strained. The brain is especially receptive during moments of ease, when you are not trying to remember, analyze, or control what is happening. In those moments, neural pathways respond more freely, allowing impressions to form naturally. This is why a peaceful walk, a quiet conversation, or a simple observation can remain vivid long after more dramatic events blur. Memory favors openness over intensity. You may notice that these lingering memories often carry a sensory quality. A particular light through a window, the warmth of a cup in your hands, the sound of footsteps fading down a hallway. The brain stores experiences as patterns that include sight, sound, touch, and emotion together. Even when the original moment is small, the combination of these elements creates a richer trace. Over time, revisiting one part of the pattern can gently awaken the rest, allowing the memory to surface again, softly and without effort. There is nothing you need to do to make this happen. Memory forms whether you pay attention to it or not. In fact, trying too hard to remember can interfere with the process. The brain consolidates experiences most effectively when it is relaxed, especially during rest and sleep. As you lie quietly now, the mind continues this gentle work, sorting and strengthening impressions from earlier in the day. Some will fade completely, and that is perfectly fine. Others will remain, not because they are important, but because they fit naturally into the flow of your inner world. You might find comfort in knowing that memory does not require perfection. It is not a recording, but a reconstruction, shaped each time it is recalled. Brief moments that linger often do so because they are flexible, able to adapt as you change. The memory of a kind gesture may feel different years later, yet it continues to offer warmth. A short experience can grow alongside you, changing tone while keeping its essence. This adaptability is not a flaw. It is one of memory's most gentle strengths. As the mind continues to rest, it becomes easier to accept that not all memories need to last. Letting go is as natural as holding on. The brain is designed to release what no longer serves, are making room for new impressions. This process happens quietly, without announcement. You do not feel memories leaving. They simply soften, becoming less accessible, less relevant, until they blend into the background of who you are. Nothing is lost. The influence remains, even when the details disappear. There is nothing you need to do right now. Your breathing finds its own rhythm. Your body settles a little more deeply into rest. If thoughts come and go, they are welcome to drift. Memory continues its quiet work in the background, strengthening some connections, loosening others, guided by balance rather than effort. You are not required to follow any of it. Simply being here is enough. Short moments leave long echoes because the mind is listening even when you are not aware of it. Memory is always attentive, always responsive, always gentle. It does not rush. It does not force. It waits for stillness, for repetition, for emotional ease. As you rest, you may sense how even this quiet listening now could become one of those small moments that stays, not as a thought, but as a feeling of calm that returns when needed. And as this sense of lingering softness settles, you may begin to wonder how memory changes further when time stretches longer, when moments repeat, and when patterns form slowly, leading the mind into its next quiet exploration. You begin to notice that memory is not designed to hold everything. It is shaped instead to choose gently, to soften edges, to allow space. Forgetting is not a flaw in the mind. It is one of its quiet strengths. As you rest with this idea, the pressure to remember loosens. The mind is not failing when it releases details, but it is caring for itself in a way that is slow, natural, and deeply human. Inside the brain, countless signals move softly, strengthening some paths while allowing others to fade. Experiences that are repeated, emotional, or meaningful tend to linger, while unused details drift away. This is not random loss. It is careful balance. By letting go of what is no longer needed, the mind avoids becoming crowded. You can imagine memory like a garden that grows healthier when space is left between plants. Forgetting also protects attention. If every sound, face, or thought remained equally vivid, the present moment would feel heavy and confusing. Instead, the mind filters quietly, keeping what supports understanding and releasing what no longer serves it. This process happens without effort, mostly outside awareness. You do not need to instruct your brain to forget. It already knows how. There is comfort in knowing that memory changes even when you are not watching. During rest and sleep, neural activity continues gently, reviewing patterns and trimming excess. Some connections are reinforced, others relaxed. Forgetting happens most effectively when the body is calm. Stress can interrupt this process, while relaxation allows it to unfold naturally. Rest becomes an ally to memory, not its enemy. Many people worry when details slip away, yet forgetting often improves clarity. By removing outdated or unimportant information, the mind makes room for flexible thinking. It allows new learning to settle without competition. This is why children whose brains forget quickly are often able to adapt with ease. Forgetting clears pathways so learning can remain light. Emotional forgetting plays a similar role. Painful memories tend to soften over time, not because they disappear, but because their sharp edges are gently reduced. The brain slowly separates emotion from event, allowing understanding without overwhelm. This is not erasing experience. It is adjusting weight. What once felt heavy becomes manageable, then quiet. You may notice that forgotten moments sometimes return unexpectedly. A scent, a sound, or a place can bring something back without effort. This shows that forgetting is often more like dormancy than deletion. Memories rest below awareness, available if needed, peaceful if not. The mind chooses distance rather than destruction. Forgetting also supports creativity. When the mind is not burdened by constant recall, it can form new connections. Ideas combine more freely when memory is flexible. This is why stepping away from a problem often brings insight later. Forgetting temporarily loosens structure, allowing new patterns to emerge quietly. As you listen, there is nothing you need to hold onto. You are allowed to forget these words even as they reach you. Understanding does not require storage. It only requires presence. The mind absorbs what it needs and releases the rest naturally. With age, forgetting often increases, and this too is part of kindness. The brain prioritizes efficiency over detail, focusing on meaning rather than precision. Faces may blur, names may drift, but emotional understanding often remains strong. Wisdom depends less on exact recall and more on patterns learned over time. Sleep plays a central role in this process. While the body rests, the brain organizes memories, strengthening some while letting others dissolve. This nightly rhythm keeps memory healthy. Forgetting during sleep is not loss, it is maintenance. Like gentle waves smoothing a shoreline, repetition and rest shape memory without effort. Even language relies on forgetting. You do not recall every sentence you have ever heard, yet you understand speech with ease. The mind remembers structure, not clutter. This selective forgetting allows fluency and flow. It keeps communication light rather than overwhelming. There is a quiet relief in knowing that forgetting is intentional. The brain is not careless. It is economical. It values balance over accumulation. Holding everything would slow thought, cloud emotion, and tire attention. Letting go is essential for mental ease. You may begin to feel your own thoughts loosening as this understanding settles. There is nothing you need to review later, nothing to memorize. Your mind can drift, trusting its own design. Forgetting also supports healing. After difficult experiences, memory gradually reorganizes, reducing intensity while preserving meaning. This allows growth without constant re-experiencing. The past becomes informative rather than intrusive. Time works gently through forgetting, not against memory, but alongside it. As your breathing slows, the mind continues its quiet work. Thoughts arise, fade, and dissolve without resistance. This is forgetting in real time, moment by moment. Awareness flows without needing to keep everything. In this way, forgetting mirrors sleep itself. Both involve release. Both restore balance. Both are necessary. You are not meant to stay awake forever, and you are not meant to remember everything. Rest requires letting go. As this chapter draws softly toward its end, you may sense that forgetting is not something to fear or correct. It is something to trust. The mind knows how to lighten its own load, gently, patiently, in its own time. And as memory settles into quiet patterns of keeping and releasing, you may begin to wonder how these gentle processes continue shaping who you are, even when you are not paying attention at all. You begin to sense that memory is never still. Even when you are not thinking about the past, it continues to move, soften, and reshape itself quietly in the background. Memories are not stored like objects placed on a shelf. They are living patterns, gently altered each time they are revisited, and even when they are left alone. This constant, subtle change is not something you need to guide. It happens naturally, the way breathing continues without effort. When you rest, the mind does not become inactive. Instead, it shifts into a slower rhythm, one that allows memories to be reorganized with care. During calm moments, connections between neurons relax and strengthen in gentle balance. Some details fade slightly, while others blend together. This does not erase meaning, it refines it. Memory becomes less about exact accuracy and more about overall understanding. Each time a memory is recalled, it is briefly opened like a page lifted from a book. In that moment, it becomes flexible. New emotions, new context, and new understanding can subtly enter before the memory settles again. This process happens automatically. You are not rewriting the past on purpose. The mind is simply keeping memories relevant to the present moment. Rest plays a powerful role in this quiet reshaping. When the body is calm, the brain moves information between different regions, allowing experiences to integrate more smoothly. Memories formed during the day are gently reviewed, not as clear images, but as patterns of activity. Some are strengthened, others softened. This happens without awareness, like waves smoothing a shoreline while you sleep. There is no single, permanent version of a memory. What you remember today may feel slightly different tomorrow, not because something is wrong, but because memory is adaptive. It responds to who you are now. As understanding grows, memories shift to match it. This allows learning to remain flexible rather than rigid. You may notice that emotional memories change most noticeably. Strong feelings can fade even when events remain clear. The brain gradually separates emotion from detail, reducing intensity while preserving meaning. This allows experiences to be remembered without reactivating stress. It is one of the ways the mind protects emotional balance over time. Even neutral memories blend and simplify. The exact sequence of a conversation, the precise layout of a room, or the specific words spoken may soften. What remains is the essence. Memory keeps what matters and releases what does not. This selective shaping is not loss. It is refinement. During deep rest, the brain synchronizes its activity in slow, steady patterns. These rhythms support memory integration. Information moves from temporary storage into more stable networks. At the same time, the unnecessary connections loosen. This balance keeps memory efficient rather than crowded. Rest becomes a time of quiet organization. You do not feel this happening, and you do not need to. Memory reshaping is silent and automatic. There is no signal, no marker, no moment when you notice change occurring. And yet, over time, memories become smoother, less sharp, more integrated into a larger story of who you are. This is why memories from long ago often feel simpler. The edges have softened, the details have blended. What remains is tone, meaning, and emotional understanding. The mind has gently edited without asking permission, always working toward balance rather than precision. Even imagination becomes involved. Each time you recall a memory, small elements may be influenced by later experiences. This is not deception, it is integration. Memory weaves together what happened with what has been learned since. The past becomes part of the present in a quiet, seamless way. As you listen, there is nothing you need to remember from this chapter. The ideas can pass through gently, leaving behind only a sense of ease. Understanding does not depend on holding details. It grows naturally through exposure and rest. You may notice your thoughts drifting as the rhythm of the words slows. This is not distraction. It is memory already responding to calm. When attention softens, the brain enters a state where reshaping becomes easier. Calm is not empty. It is productive in the quietest way. The brain prefers rest when adjusting memory. Stress narrows focus and strengthens sharp details, while relaxation allows blending and integration. This is why difficult memories often soften with time and safety. Rest gives memory permission to change. Even now, as your breathing slows, memory continues its gentle work. Thoughts arise, overlap, and fade. Each moment becomes part of a continuous flow rather than a fixed point. The mind does not cling. It allows movement. This process supports identity. You are not defined by a frozen record of past events, but by a living understanding shaped over time. Memory changes so that growth remains possible. Without this flexibility, learning would become heavy and rigid. Sleep deepens this process even further. During sleep, the brain replays patterns quietly, strengthening some pathways while dissolving others. This overnight reshaping keeps memory functional and balanced. Morning brings not just rest, but reorganization. You do not wake remembering everything, and that is intentional. What remains feels lighter, more relevant, more usable. Memory has already done its work while you rested. As this chapter gently settles, you may feel how memory and rest are partners rather than opposites. One supports the other in quiet cooperation. And as memories continue to change softly in the background, you may begin to wonder how emotion itself guides what the mind chooses to keep close next. You begin to notice that memory listens closely to emotion, but it does not respond to volume. It responds to tone. Experiences do not need to be intense to be remembered. Often, the mind settles more comfortably around moments that arrive gently, without urgency or force. Emotion acts less like a spotlight and more like a soft pressure, shaping how experiences sink in and where they rest. When something carries emotion, the brain pays attention, but attention does not always mean sharpness. Calm emotions tend to leave smoother imprints. They blend easily with surrounding experiences, fitting naturally into the ongoing flow of memory. Strong emotions, on the other hand, may feel vivid at first, but they can be tiring for the mind to hold. Over time, the brain often works to soften them, reducing their edges so balance can return. Emotion helps the brain decide what matters, but it does so quietly. A warm conversation, a feeling of safety, or a moment of quiet satisfaction may be remembered not because it was dramatic, but because it felt complete. These memories settle gently without resistance. They do not demand attention. They simply remain. The brain processes emotional experiences through multiple pathways at once. Sensations, feelings, and context weave together into a single pattern. When emotions are calm, this pattern forms smoothly. When emotions are intense, the pattern can become tight and narrow, focusing on specific details while losing flexibility. Over time, the brain prefers to loosen these patterns, allowing memory to breathe. You may notice that calm memories often feel more stable. They do not intrude or fade suddenly. They sit quietly in the background, available without effort. This stability comes from balance. The nervous system remains relaxed while forming these memories, allowing information to integrate fully rather than locking into a rigid shape. Emotion does not stamp memories permanently. It guides them during formation, then gradually releases control. As time passes, emotional intensity often fades faster than factual understanding. This allows memories to remain useful without reactivating strong feelings. The mind learns from experience, then lets the emotional charge dissolve. Gentle emotions also support connection between memories. When experiences feel safe, the brain links them easily with other moments. This creates a network rather than isolated points. Memory becomes a landscape rather than a collection of sharp images. Moving through it feels natural and unforced. Strong emotional events may stand apart at first. They can feel separate, distinct, and heavy. Over time, however, the brain works to integrate them. During rest and sleep, emotional intensity is gradually reduced. This is not erasure, it is adjustment. Memory shifts from reaction to understanding. You may find that memories tied to calm routines are surprisingly persistent. Simple walks, familiar rooms, quiet evenings often remain clear, long after louder moments fade. The brain values predictability and safety. These qualities support long-term stability more than excitement or shock. Emotion also influences how easily memories return. Calm memories tend to surface gently without pulling attention away from the present. Intense memories may arrive abruptly, then recede as the brain continues its work of softening them. Over time, even these begin to lose urgency. There is no need for the mind to hold everything at full strength. Emotional balance matters more than detail. Memory serves well-being first. It keeps what supports stability and releases what overwhelms. This process happens without instruction or awareness. During rest, emotional processing continues quietly. The brain revisits experiences, adjusting emotional weight while preserving meaning. This is why difficult memories often feel less heavy after sleep. The mind has had time to redistribute emotional load. Gentle emotions also allow memory to remain flexible. They leave room for reinterpretation as understanding grows. A moment once remembered simply may gain new meaning later, not through intensity, but through reflection. Memory remains open rather than fixed. You do not need to manage this process. Emotional memory reshaping occurs naturally, guided by the nervous system's preference for balance. Calm states encourage smoother integration. This is why relaxation supports memory health without effort. As your body rests, emotional signals quiet down. This allows the brain to adjust memories without interference. There is nothing to solve, nothing to revisit. Memory continues its gentle work on its own. You may notice that your thoughts drift toward neutral or pleasant sensations as you relax. This is not avoidance, it is regulation. The mind moves toward balance automatically when given the chance. Emotion and memory are partners, but neither dominates. Emotion opens the door. Memory decides how long to stay. Over time, memory chooses calm over intensity, stability over sharpness. This does not mean that strong emotions are ignored. They are acknowledged, then gradually eased. The brain seeks resolution, not repetition. Emotional memory becomes quieter as understanding replaces reaction. You might sense now that memory prefers patterns that feel safe to revisit. Calm experiences invite return. Intense ones are visited less often, allowing them to fade gently into context. Even now, as you breathe slowly, emotional tone is shaping what remains. The softness of this moment supports gentle imprinting. Nothing needs to stand out. Everything can blend. There is nothing you need to remember from this chapter. The ideas can settle or drift away. Memory responds best when it is not asked to perform. As attention softens, emotional weight redistributes. Thoughts lose urgency. The nervous system relaxes. Memory aligns with rest. This is how the mind protects itself over time. It favors gentle imprints that support continuity rather than sharp impressions that disrupt balance. Calm becomes the default setting. As this chapter comes to rest, you may begin to sense how attention itself influences memory, guiding what quietly stays and what fades without effort, leading naturally into how focus shapes remembrance in subtle ways. You may notice that not all memories arrive with images, sentences, or clear scenes. Some memories live quietly beneath language, felt rather than seen, known rather than recalled. They surface as a sense of familiarity, a bodily ease, or a subtle comfort that has no obvious story attached. Memory continues its work, even when it cannot be described. You recognize this kind of memory when you enter a familiar room and feel calm before you identify why. The walls do not trigger a picture. The air does not form a sentence. Yet something inside you settles. The body remembers patterns long before the mind names them. This kind of memory is immediate and effortless. The brain stores experiences in many forms at once. While some memories are organized into images or narratives, others are distributed through sensations, movements, and emotional tones. These memories do not ask to be recalled. They simply guide responses quietly, shaping comfort and familiarity. You may notice this when your hands know how to perform a simple task without conscious thought. There is no inner narration explaining each step. The memory exists in motion itself. It is stored within networks that support action rather than description. The mind trusts these pathways and allows them to operate without supervision. Sensory memory often works this way. A particular texture, temperature, or rhythm can bring ease without explanation. The sensation feels right, even if you cannot say why. This form of memory connects directly to the nervous system, bypassing the need for words. Emotional memory also lives beyond language. You can feel safe or uneasy in a place without recalling any specific event. The brain has learned through experience how certain environments tend to feel. It stores this knowledge as a state rather than a story. These non-verbal memories are often the most stable. Because they are not tied to specific images or phrases, they are less likely to distort or fade through retelling. They remain consistent, quietly guiding behavior and emotional balance over time. You do not need to access these memories intentionally. They activate automatically when needed. When your body relaxes into a familiar posture or your breathing slows in a known environment, memory is already at work, adjusting internal states without effort. This kind of memory forms early and continues throughout life. Long before language develops, the brain learns through sensation and repetition. These early patterns remain active, supporting regulation and comfort even in adulthood. They are not replaced by verbal memory. They coexist. You may notice that during rest, these non-verbal memories become more noticeable. As thinking slows, bodily sensations and subtle feelings move into awareness. There is no message attached, just presence. This is memory expressing itself quietly. Because these memories do not rely on conscious recall, they are not affected by forgetting in the usual sense. You do not lose the memory of how to relax into sleep. You simply do it. The knowledge remains embodied. A memory without pictures or words also allows flexibility. It adapts gently as experiences accumulate. Comfort expands. Familiarity deepens. There is no rigid script to revise. The body updates memory continuously through experience. This form of memory supports learning without effort. Repeated calm experiences gradually shift baseline states. The nervous system learns what rest feels like. Over time, it becomes easier to return to that state without instruction. You may notice that certain sounds or rhythms bring immediate calm. The memory is not of a specific moment, but of a pattern repeated over time. The brain has learned that this pattern predicts safety and rest. This learning does not require attention. It happens in the background, especially during relaxed states. The brain is particularly receptive when there is no pressure to perform. Memory integrates more smoothly when the system is at ease. Non-verbal memory also supports emotional regulation. When a familiar sensation brings comfort, it signals the brain to reduce alertness. Heart rate slows, muscles soften. This happens without analysis. You do not need to understand these processes for them to work. The brain has evolved to store and use information efficiently. Language is only one of many tools it uses. Often, the most important memories do not speak. As you lie here, breathing gently, your body recognizes the pattern of rest. The position, the quiet, the rhythm of breath all signal familiarity. Memory responds by easing tension. There is nothing you need to recall, nothing to picture. The memory of rest is already present and guiding your body towards sleep. This is why trying to remember often interferes with resting. Conscious effort engages systems that are not needed here. Memory without words works best when left alone. You may notice thoughts drifting without structure. This is not distraction. It is a sign that non-verbal memory is taking over, guiding the transition from wakefulness to sleep. These memories are resilient. They persist even when verbal recall weakens. The ability to feel comfort, familiarity, and safety remains accessible through sensation and routine. You may also notice that comfort can arise in new places once patterns repeat. Memory generalizes. It learns that rest can happen anywhere when conditions feel similar. This adaptability supports well-being. The brain does not require exact matches. It recognizes rhythms and responds accordingly. As your awareness softens, memory continues quietly. It does not demand attention or acknowledgement. It simply supports the present moment. There is nothing to do now, nothing to name. The body remembers how to rest. Breathing continues. Muscles relax. Familiarity deepens. Memory without pictures or words carries you forward gently, preparing the ground for understanding how attention itself shapes what stays with you and what drifts away next. You begin to notice that memory is not shaped by single moments alone, but by what returns again and again. Repetition works quietly, without urgency, gently carving familiarity into the mind. Nothing needs to be forced. What repeats calmly begins to settle naturally. When an experience happens once, it may pass like a soft breeze. When it returns, even subtly, the brain takes note. It does not announce this process. It simply adjusts, strengthening pathways a little each time. Memory grows through exposure, not effort. You see this in everyday life. A sound you hear often becomes background. A routine you repeat begins to feel effortless. The brain conserves energy by recognizing patterns and responding with less resistance. Repetition creates ease. This process does not require attention. In fact, it works best when attention is relaxed. When you are not trying to remember, the brain quietly organizes experience in the background. Familiarity forms without strain. Neural connections respond to repetition by becoming more efficient. Signals travel more smoothly along pathways that are used often. This efficiency feels like comfort. What was once unfamiliar begins to feel safe and known. You may notice that calm repetition is especially powerful. Experiences paired with relaxation are absorbed more gently and more deeply. The nervous system learns that these moments do not require alertness. Memory links repetition with safety. This is why bedtime routines matter. The same sequence of actions, repeated nightly, signals the brain that rest is approaching. Memory responds before you think about it. The body begins to unwind automatically. Repetition does not demand perfection. Variations do not break the pattern. The brain looks for similarity, not exact matches. A familiar rhythm is enough. Memory fills in the rest. Over time, repeated experiences shape expectations. The mind begins to predict what comes next. This prediction reduces effort and lowers tension. A memory becomes a guide rather than a task. You may notice that repeated calm experiences soften emotional responses. What once felt uncertain now feels manageable. The brain has learned through repetition that nothing harmful follows. Memory reassures without words. This sculpting happens slowly. There is no sudden shift. Familiarity grows like erosion, gradual and quiet. Each repetition smooths the surface a little more. You do not need to repeat something many times in a short span. Gentle repetition over long periods is often more effective. The brain prefers steady exposure to intense bursts. This is how habits form without struggle. When repetition is calm, resistance fades. The behavior feels natural rather than imposed. Memory supports continuation without pressure. You may notice that repetition also influences how easily memories are accessed. Experiences encountered often are retrieved with less effort. They rise gently into awareness when needed. At the same time, repetition can allow other memories to fade. When new patterns replace old ones, the brain reallocates attention. Forgetting is not loss here. It is adjustment. This balance keeps memory flexible. The mind remains open to change while still holding what is useful. Repetition shapes without trapping. You might notice this when learning something new slowly. With calm repetition, confusion eases. Understanding arrives without strain. Memory aligns itself with experience. Sleep plays an important role in this sculpting. During rest, repeated experiences are reviewed and integrated. The brain strengthens what matters and releases what does not. You do not feel this process happening. It unfolds beneath awareness. Memory works while you rest, quietly refining itself. Repetition also builds trust. When an experience consistently ends safely, the brain lowers its guard. This trust allows deeper relaxation over time. You may find that repeated gentle thoughts become easier to access at night. The mind returns to familiar calm themes without being directed. Memory guides attention softly. This is why soothing narratives feel comforting when heard often. The structure becomes known. The voice becomes familiar. Memory associates the experience with rest. Nothing about this process is urgent. Memory does not rush. It waits, responds, and adjusts at its own pace. If repetition stops, memory does not disappear immediately. The sculpted shape remains for a while. Familiarity lingers, ready to be reactivated. This allows flexibility. Life changes do not erase memory instantly. The brain holds patterns gently, releasing them only when new repetitions take their place. You may notice that calm repetition is easier to maintain than forced practice. When there is no pressure, consistency feels lighter. Memory grows without resistance. As you lie here, breathing slowly, your body recognizes this repeated pattern of rest. Night after night, the same signals arrive. Memory responds by easing tension. There is nothing you need to repeat consciously. The process is already underway. Familiarity has been sculpted over time. Your nervous system knows this moment. It has encountered it before. Memory welcomes it without effort. Repetition continues its quiet work, shaping comfort and ease, preparing the mind to explore next, how attention gently decides what memory holds close and what it lets drift away. Sleep is where memory feels most at home. When you rest, the mind steps out of the spotlight and lets deeper processes take over. There is no effort here, no focus, no intention. Memory works quietly, like a caretaker tidying a room after everyone has left. As you drift towards sleep, your brain changes its rhythm. Activity slows and spreads, moving away from sharp attention and into broad coordination. This shift creates space for memory to reorganize itself gently, without interruption. During waking hours, experiences arrive continuously. Sights, sounds, thoughts, and emotions layer over one another. Memory collects them, but it does not fully arrange them yet. Our sleep offers the pause that allows sorting to begin. You are not aware of this work. There are no signals to notice, no sensations to follow. Memory operates beneath awareness, deciding what to strengthen, what to soften, and what to release. Nothing about this process requires your involvement. Some memories become more stable during sleep. Patterns that appeared repeatedly during the day are revisited and reinforced. The brain recognizes what mattered most and gives it a little more structure. Other details fade naturally. This is not loss, it is balance. Memory reduces clutter so that the mind remains flexible and calm. Sleep supports this balance by lowering external demands. You might imagine memory settling like fine sediment in still water. When movement stops, clarity returns. Sleep creates that stillness. Thoughts slow, and memory finds its natural shape. Different stages of sleep contribute in different ways. Some phases emphasize organization, while others support integration. Together, they form a cycle that memory has relied on for as long as humans have slept. Dreaming is one gentle expression of this process. Images and ideas blend freely, reflecting memory's flexible nature. Dreams are not instructions. They are side effects of a mind-weaving experience into broader understanding. Even when you do not remember dreams, memory still benefits. The work continues whether or not it leaves a trace in waking awareness. Sleep does not require recall to be effective. Rest also helps separate emotion from memory. Strong feelings attached to experiences soften slightly during sleep. This allows memories to be recalled later without overwhelming emotional weight. You may notice that problems feel different after rest. What once seemed tangled often appears simpler. Memory has reorganized relationships quietly, offering clarity without effort. Sleep supports memory by reducing interference. While awake, new information constantly competes for attention. During sleep, that competition pauses. Memory has uninterrupted space to settle. This is why learning feels easier when rest is regular. Memory depends on sleep, not as an optional aid, but as a preferred environment. Without rest, organization becomes strained. You do not need long stretches of intense sleep for memory to benefit. Even gentle, consistent rest supports this process. The brain values rhythm more than extremes, and naps can also offer small windows for memory adjustment. Short periods of rest allow partial organization, reinforcing patterns already forming. Memory responds to any opportunity for calm. Sleep also protects older memories. By revisiting them quietly, the brain keeps them accessible while allowing unnecessary details to fade. This preservation happens without conscious review. You may find that familiar skills feel smoother after sleep. Movements, words, and responses flow more easily. Memory has refined coordination in the background. This refinement does not add new information. It optimizes what already exists. Sleep polishes rather than builds, shaping memory into something more efficient. Rest supports memory across all ages. While the patterns may change over time, the underlying need for sleep remains. Memory never outgrows its reliance on rest. You do not have to sleep perfectly for memory to benefit. Even imperfect rest contributes. The brain works with what it has, adjusting gently rather than demanding ideal conditions. There is nothing you need to remember from this moment. Your mind already knows how to use sleep well. This process has unfolded quietly throughout your life. As your breathing slows, memory recognizes the familiar approach of rest. Signals pass through the nervous system, preparing the brain for its preferred state of organization. Shoulders soften, jaw relaxes, thought becomes less directed. Memory begins to loosen its grip on detail and lean into pattern. This is a good place to pause and let go. You are not missing anything by resting. Memory does its best work when you are not watching. The night offers time without expectation. Sleep welcomes memory without judgment, allowing it to adjust naturally. As rest deepens, the mind releases the need to hold on to the day. Experiences drift into quieter forms, settling into stable arrangements. You may wake later with no sense of what changed, only a subtle feeling of ease. Memory has done its work quietly. Sleep continues to support this gentle process, preparing the mind to explore next how memory connects to the steady rhythms of the body itself. Memory does not live in a single place. It does not sit quietly behind the eyes or rest only in thought. Much of what you remember is carried through the body itself, spread gently across systems that work without words or images. When you walk, your legs already know how. When you reach for something familiar, your hand moves before thought arrives. These actions are not decided moment by moment. They unfold from memory stored in movement, balance, and sensation. This kind of memory forms slowly. It builds through repetition, rhythm, and time. Each small action leaves a trace, not as a picture or story, but as readiness. The body learns what feels natural. You do not need to remember how this learning happened. The body remembers for you. Muscles, joints, and nerves adjust quietly, shaping future movement without effort or awareness. This memory feels calm because it is not questioned. You do not ask your body how to sit or breathe. It already knows. These patterns were learned long ago through gentle exposure and steady repetition. Even posture carries memory. The way you hold yourself reflects countless past moments. Comfort, tension, ease, and caution are stored in subtle alignments that shift over time. Breathing follows familiar patterns as well. When calm, it slows. When alert, it quickens. These responses are not decisions. They are memories of how the body has adapted before. The nervous system holds much of this quiet memory. Pathways strengthen with use, allowing signals to travel smoothly. Over time, effort fades and movement becomes fluid. You may notice this when learning something new. At first, attention is required. Later, the action flows without thought. Memory has moved from conscious effort into embodied habit. This transition is gentle. Nothing forces it. The body prefers gradual change, learning best when repetition is calm and consistent. Emotion also leaves traces in the body. Certain sensations can bring comfort or unease without clear explanation. These responses are memories without narrative. A familiar scent, temperature, or texture may feel reassuring. The body remembers safety even when the mind cannot explain why. This recognition happens quietly. These memories are not stored as facts. They are stored as tendencies. Approach or withdraw, relax or prepare, rest or move. The body responds based on past experience. Sleep supports this form of memory as well. During rest, physical patterns are reinforced. Movements practiced during the day become smoother after sleep. This is why rest can improve coordination without additional practice. The body reorganizes quietly, strengthening what it has already learned. You do not need to guide this process. It unfolds naturally, shaped by use and rest. Memory across the body is patient. Balance is another form of embodied memory. Your sense of position adjusts continuously, drawing on countless past corrections. You remain upright without calculating each movement. Even speaking involves bodily memory. Breath, tongue, and jaw coordinate automatically. Words flow because the body remembers how to shape sound. These patterns remain flexible. The body adjusts when needed, updating memory with new experiences. Nothing is fixed permanently. Pain can also influence bodily memory. The body learns to protect injured areas, altering movement until healing occurs. This adaptation is cautious, not dramatic. Over time, as safety returns, these protective patterns soften. Memory adjusts again, releasing unnecessary tension. You may notice that calm environments feel easier on the body. Familiar routines reduce effort. The body remembers what to expect and relaxes into it. This is why repetition can be comforting. Predictability allows the body to settle. Memory finds stability in rhythm. Learning physical skills often feels satisfying because it aligns with how memory prefers to work. Slow, repeated practice creates lasting change. You do not need to push. The body resists force, but welcomes patience. Memory responds best to gentle consistency. Even emotions can be felt as bodily memories. Warmth in the chest, heaviness in the limbs, lightness in breath. These sensations reflect learned responses. With time, these responses can change. New experiences reshape bodily memory, introducing ease where tension once lived. This change does not require analysis. The body updates itself through exposure and rest. There is nothing you need to remember right now. Your body is already carrying what it needs. It holds memory quietly, without asking for attention. As you lie still, notice how much is already handled for you. Breathing continues. Muscles support and release. Balance is maintained even in rest. The body remembers how to rest as well. Sleep arrives through familiar signals, easing you into stillness. You do not need to guide this transition. Memory across the body recognizes the approach of night. As thoughts soften, bodily memory takes over, maintaining comfort and safety. This is its role. Learning does not stop when thinking fades. The body continues to adjust, storing experience in subtle ways. This distributed memory allows the mind to rest. Not everything must be held in awareness. As you settle further, the body's quiet knowledge remains steady, ready to support whatever comes next, gently preparing for the way attention and awareness drift together in the chapter ahead. Sometimes you recognize something without knowing why. A place feels known, even if you cannot remember when you were last there. A voice sounds familiar, though the name stays just out of reach. This is not a mistake in memory. It is one of its gentlest forms. Recognition does not always arrive with details. Often it comes first as a feeling, a quiet sense of ease or acceptance. The mind does not ask questions. It simply allows familiarity to settle. This happens because memory works on more than one level. Some memories store stories, images, and timelines. Others store impressions. These impressions are softer and faster, arriving before thought. When you sense familiarity, the brain is noticing patterns it has encountered before. The match does not need to be perfect. Similar shapes, tones, or rhythms are enough to awaken recognition. This process is efficient. It saves energy by avoiding unnecessary analysis. Instead of searching for exact recall, the mind gently signals, "This is known." You may notice this when listening to music. A melody feels familiar before you remember where you heard it. The feeling comes first, the explanation later, if it comes at all. Faces work the same way. You may recognize someone instantly but struggle to place them. The sense of knowing is real, even without context. This kind of memory is calm because it does not demand completion. It does not insist on answers. It allows uncertainty to coexist with comfort. The brain regions involved in recognition operate quietly, comparing incoming information with stored patterns. This comparison happens without effort or awareness. Because of this, familiarity often feels effortless. It arrives fully formed, without steps or reasoning. This can be reassuring. Even when details fade, recognition remains. Memory does not vanish completely. It changes shape. Over time, specific information may weaken, but the emotional tone stays. You may forget a conversation, yet remember how it made you feel. This emotional familiarity is especially strong. It helps guide behavior gently, encouraging approach or comfort without explanation. You may feel at ease in certain environments without knowing why. The body relaxes because it remembers safety, even if the story is gone. This is useful. It allows you to move through the world smoothly, guided by quiet signals rather than constant thought. Sleep supports this process. During rest, memories are reorganized. Details may fade, but core impressions are preserved. This is not loss. It is refinement. The mind keeps what is useful and releases what is not. Familiarity without recall helps prevent overload. If every memory remained vivid, rest would be difficult. The mind chooses simplicity. You can think of this as memory becoming lighter. Heavy details are set down, leaving behind a gentle outline. This outline is often enough. It provides orientation without burden. You experience this when rereading a book long after forgetting the plot. The pages feel known, even if the story surprises you again. The pleasure comes from recognition mixed with novelty. Memory allows both to coexist. This balance keeps the mind flexible. Familiarity provides stability, while forgetting leaves room for new experience. There is nothing wrong when details disappear. Memory is not failing. It is adjusting. In daily life, this allows you to function without constant recall. You do not need to remember every step of a routine. Familiarity carries you through. Even language relies on this. You recognize words instantly without recalling when you learned them. Meaning arrives before thought. This process is automatic and quiet. It asks nothing of you. As you rest, this kind of memory becomes more active. The mind shifts away from effortful recall and toward gentle recognition. This is why evenings often feel reflective. Familiar feelings surface without stories attached. You may sense memories drifting by like shapes in fog. They are present but undefined. This is a comfortable state. Nothing needs to be clarified. There is nothing you need to remember right now. Familiarity is enough. Your mind recognizes the rhythm of rest. It knows this moment, even if you cannot name it. Breathing slows because it has been here before. Muscles release because they remember how. Comfort does not require explanation. It only requires recognition. As sleep approaches, detailed thought fades. What remains is a sense of knowing without effort. This is the mind's preferred path into rest. Gentle, unforced, and quiet. Memory softens its grip, leaving behind warmth instead of information. You are allowed to let details go. The mind knows how to hold what matters. As familiarity deepens, awareness loosens. Thoughts become less defined. You do not need to search for meaning. It is already present as feeling. This is how memory supports rest. By stepping back, it makes space for sleep. As you drift, recognition continues quietly, guiding you without words, preparing you for the next gentle exploration of how memory changes with time. You begin by noticing how childhood memories feel different from later ones, not sharper or weaker, but shaped in another way entirely. They arrive without clear edges, often without images or timelines, like impressions left in soft ground. Even when you cannot recall specific moments, you sense that something lasting has been quietly formed. Childhood memory does not announce itself. It settles in gently, becoming part of how you move through the world without asking for attention. There is nothing you need to recall clearly here. Simply resting with the idea is enough. In early life, the brain is still learning how to organize experience. Memory systems are active, but they do not yet separate events into neat categories or stories. Instead, repeated sensations, emotions, and rhythms quietly shape expectations. A familiar voice, a consistent routine, or the feeling of safety at certain times of day begins to form patterns. These patterns do not need to be remembered as events. They live on as tendencies, preferences, and quiet responses that feel natural rather than learned. You may notice that many early memories are emotional rather than visual. The feeling of being comforted, the ease of play, or the calm of being watched over can remain long after the details disappear. Science shows that emotional systems mature earlier than those used for deliberate recall. This means that the emotional tone of early life is often preserved, even when the mind cannot reconstruct scenes or conversations. Nothing is lost here. The memory simply takes a different form. As language develops, memory slowly changes shape. Words allow experiences to be labeled, described, and later retrieved. Before this stage, memories are stored without verbal tags. They exist as sensations, movements, and emotional responses. This is why early childhood often feels distant or hazy when you try to think back. It is not that memory failed. It simply recorded life in a language you no longer use consciously. There is comfort in knowing that forgetting early details is a normal part of development. The brain protects itself from overload by allowing unused information to fade. This clearing makes room for new learning as the world grows larger and more complex. Even now, there is nothing you need to retrieve or preserve. Memory continues to choose what matters quietly, without effort from you. You may also sense how early routines leave a lasting imprint. Regular sleep times, predictable care, and gentle repetition help the nervous system learn stability. These patterns become reference points for calm later in life. When something feels familiar or reassuring without explanation, it may echo those early rhythms. The body remembers long before the mind understands. Childhood memories are also shaped by movement. Crawling, walking, reaching, and exploring build memory through the body. These experiences strengthen systems involved in coordination and balance, storing knowledge that does not rely on conscious recall. This is why certain movements feel natural, even if you cannot remember learning them. Memory here is practical and quiet, woven into action itself. You may notice that early learning happens best through repetition rather than instruction. Hearing the same sounds, seeing familiar faces, and engaging in simple play reinforces connections without pressure. The brain responds to consistency with growth. Nothing is rushed. Each repetition gently strengthens pathways that will later support more complex thinking. As years pass, some childhood memories may resurface unexpectedly. A smell, a melody, or a texture can bring a sudden sense of familiarity. These moments are not signs of loss or recovery. They are natural reminders that memory remains layered, accessible through many paths. There is no need to follow them. Let them pass like soft echoes. Research shows that even when specific memories cannot be recalled, the early experiences still influence stress responses and emotional regulation. The body learns what safety feels like and how to return to it. This learning does not require conscious awareness. It operates quietly, guiding reactions long after the original moments have faded. You may find it soothing to know that gaps in childhood memory are shared by everyone. This pattern reflects healthy brain development rather than absence. Memory was busy building foundations, not archives. Those foundations now support attention, learning, and emotional balance without drawing focus. There is also gentleness in how the mind protects itself from overwhelming early experiences. The brain limits access to memories before it has tools to interpret them fully. This process is not a flaw. It is a form of care, allowing growth to proceed at a steady pace. Nothing needs to be forced open. As you rest with these ideas, you may feel permission to release any concern about what you remember or do not remember. Memory is not a test or a record to be completed. It is a living process that adapts to what you need now. Early experiences continue to do their work quietly, without requiring review. The softness of childhood memory reminds you that influence does not depend on clarity. Gentle beginnings can shape a lifetime without leaving sharp images behind. What matters has already settled where it belongs. There is nothing you need to retrieve, nothing you need to understand fully. As this chapter draws to a close, you may sense how memory builds itself from quiet repetitions and early comforts, preparing the ground for everything that follows. I am gently inviting the next reflection on how memory continues to change with time. You begin by noticing how memory feels different as time passes, not broken or fading, but unhurried. Thoughts arrive with more patience than before. Names, moments, and details take a longer path to reach you, as if they are walking rather than running. This slower pace is not a sign of loss. It reflects a mind that carries more layers, more connections, and more experience than it once did. There is nothing you need to retrieve quickly. Memory is allowed to take its time. As the brain ages, it does not stop forming memories. Instead, it changes how information is stored and accessed. New experiences are woven into a much larger network than before. Each memory must pass through a landscape already rich with meaning. This makes recall feel slower, but also more stable. The mind compares, sorts, and connects before offering anything forward. Slowness here is a sign of depth. You may notice that older memories often feel clearer than recent ones. This happens because well-established patterns have been reinforced many times. They rest in memory like well-worn paths, easy to follow without effort. Newer information, still lightly placed, requires more attention to reach. Nothing has disappeared. It is simply still settling. With age, the brain becomes more selective. It does not try to hold everything. Instead, it favors information that fits existing knowledge, emotional relevance, or repeated use. This selectivity reduces mental noise and protects focus. Forgetting small details becomes part of maintaining balance, not a failure of ability. Now, there is nothing you need to hold onto tightly. Research shows that slower recall often accompanies stronger understanding. When memory pauses, it is integrating context. It draws on related experiences, emotions, and meanings before responding. This process may feel like delay, but it often leads to richer insight. Answers arrive shaped by time rather than speed. You may also sense that emotional memory remains steady with age. Feelings associated with people, places, and routines continue to guide behavior smoothly. The ability to recognize comfort, trust familiarity, or sense unease does not rely on quick recall. These forms of memory are resilient and quietly supportive. As years pass, procedural memory remains strong. Skills learned through repetition, such as walking, writing, or familiar tasks. They continue with little conscious effort. The body remembers how to move through daily life without needing reminders. This stability provides confidence even when names or dates take longer to surface. Another gentle shift appears in how attention is used. The mind becomes less reactive and more reflective. Memory retrieval may slow because the brain is no longer tuned for urgency. It favors accuracy and meaning over speed. This change aligns naturally with calmer priorities and deeper awareness. You might notice moments when a word feels just out of reach. This experience is common and temporary. The memory is still present, simply waiting for the right cue. When pressure is released, recall often returns on its own. There is nothing you need to push or chase. Sleep continues to support memory at every age. During rest, the brain reorganizes information, strengthening useful connections and releasing others. This process does not weaken with time. It adapts, continuing its quiet work without asking for effort. Even now, memory benefits from rest more than strain. You may feel comfort in knowing that wisdom grows alongside slower recall. Patterns become familiar. Lessons learned long ago guide decisions without needing to be consciously remembered. Experience shapes judgment gently, offering stability rather than speed. At this point, you may allow your breathing to slow naturally. There is nothing you need to recall right now. Shoulders can soften. The mind can rest, trusting that memory continues its work quietly in the background. Studies of aging brains show that many memory systems remain active well into later life. Changes reflect reorganization, not decline. The brain prioritizes efficiency and meaning, adjusting to what matters most. Memory becomes less about accumulation and more about integration. You may notice that stories from long ago carry emotional clarity even when details blur. This reflects how memory preserves significance over precision. The essence remains while unnecessary edges fade. This process protects emotional continuity across time. There is also gentleness in how older memory responds to cues. Music, familiar routines, or repeated environments support recall naturally. These cues reduce effort and invite memory forward without demand. The mind responds best when it is not rushed. As you rest with these thoughts, you may feel reassurance that slower memory does not mean diminished self. Identity remains intact, is supported by countless experiences woven together over years. Memory serves continuity, not performance. The pace of recall continues to slow, not because memory is weakening, but because it has learned to move carefully. Each response carries weight, context, and understanding. Nothing is missing. Everything is simply taking its time. As this chapter gently settles, you may sense how memory changes its rhythm rather than its strength, preparing you to reflect next on how memories can feel familiar even when their details have quietly faded. You begin by noticing how memory often feels softer when it is shared. A moment remembered together carries less weight on your own mind. Conversation becomes a gentle place where details rest, supported by others. You do not have to hold everything alone. Memory spreads naturally through connection, easing effort and quieting urgency. From early life onward, the brain learns in social settings. Faces, voices, gestures, and shared attention help experiences settle more smoothly. When you recall a moment with someone else, memory becomes less about accuracy and more about presence. The mind remembers how it felt to be connected, not just what occurred. This emotional layer adds stability. Shared memories are reinforced through repetition, but not repetition driven by effort. Stories retold casually, moments recalled in passing, or familiar routines experienced together strengthen recall without strain. Each shared reflection refreshes memory gently, keeping it available without pressure. There is no need to memorize. Remembering happens naturally. Social memory also distributes cognitive load. When one person forgets a detail, another may recall it. This collective process reduces anxiety around forgetting. The brain learns that memory is not a solitary task. Support exists outside as well as within. This understanding alone can soften the mind. You may notice that memories formed in calm social environments tend to feel clearer than those formed under stress. When the nervous system is relaxed, attention widens, information settles more evenly. Laughter, shared silence, and mutual understanding all signal safety, allowing memory to anchor without tension. The brain uses social cues to organize memory. Tone of voice, facial expression, and emotional response help categorize experiences. These cues act as gentle labels, making later recalls smoother. Even when words fade, the emotional context remains accessible, guiding understanding. Over time, shared memories become part of identity. They shape how you see yourself within relationships and communities. This continuity supports emotional regulation and reduces the need for constant recall. Memory serves belonging rather than performance. As relationships deepen, memory becomes increasingly implicit. You may know what to expect from someone without consciously recalling why. Patterns built over many interactions guide behavior automatically. This form of memory operates quietly, freeing attention and supporting calm engagement. There is also comfort in knowing that shared memories do not require precision. Two people may remember the same event differently, yet both memories remain valid. The brain prioritizes meaning over exactness. This flexibility protects relationships and reduces mental strain. Neuroscience shows that social interaction activates memory-related regions alongside emotional centers. This integration strengthens retention while lowering cognitive effort. When memory is tied to connection, it becomes more resilient and less fragile. You may feel this now as you reflect on familiar people or places. Even without clear images, a sense of warmth or recognition arises. Memory does not demand detail to provide comfort. Familiarity alone can guide behavior and emotion. As time passes, shared memories evolve. Details may soften, but the bond they represent remains. The brain preserves what supports emotional stability, releasing what no longer serves. This process is not loss, but refinement. Group rituals, traditions, and routines further stabilize memory. Repeated social patterns create predictable frameworks where memory can rest. Holidays, shared meals, or daily greetings anchor experience gently, requiring little conscious effort. You may also notice that recalling memories with others often brings ease rather than strain. Conversation allows memory to surface gradually, without demand. Pauses are acceptable. Silence does not threaten recall. Everything unfolds at its own pace. At this moment, you may allow yourself to relax further. There is nothing you need to remember right now. Memory is supported by connection, by rest, and by time. Shoulders can soften. Breathing can slow. Social memory also helps regulate emotion. When experiences are shared, feelings are validated. The brain learns that emotional responses are understood and accepted. This validation reduces stress hormones, supporting clearer memory formation and gentler recall. Even imagined social connection can support memory. Thinking of a trusted person or familiar voice can evoke calm and familiarity. The brain responds to these cues as if connection were present, easing mental effort. As you grow older, social memory continues to play a stabilizing role. Conversations may repeat, stories may circle back, but each retelling reinforces belonging. The brain values connection over novelty, comfort over precision. You may notice that memory feels lighter when shared. Responsibility disperses. There is less need to hold every detail. Trust develops that understanding exists beyond individual recall. In quiet moments, shared memories may surface as feelings rather than narratives. A sense of companionship, safety, or recognition appears without explanation. These impressions guide behavior subtly, supporting calm interaction. The brain's ability to synchronize with others also supports memory. Shared rhythms, such as walking together or speaking in turn, align neural activity. This alignment enhances retention while reducing cognitive load. As this chapter settles, you may feel reassured that memory is not meant to be carried alone. Connection spreads experience gently across people and time, allowing recall to remain calm and supported. You may rest now in the understanding that memory grows steadier through sharing, preparing you to drift next into how familiarity itself can comfort the mind, even when specific memories quietly fade. You begin by noticing that memory does not disappear all at once. It thins gently, like mist lifting from a quiet field. Details soften first, edges blur, names loosen their hold. Yet something steady remains. You are not emptied by forgetting. You are lightened. The brain does not erase experiences as if wiping a surface clean. Instead, it gradually releases precise detail while preserving influence. A memory's emotional tone often stays long after the storyline fades. What once required clear images becomes a feeling of familiarity, safety, or understanding. This is not damage. It is efficiency. As time passes, the mind learns what no longer needs sharp definition. Facts that no longer guide behavior are allowed to rest. The brain prefers patterns over specifics, meaning over precision. In this way, memory becomes quieter, less crowded, and more spacious. You may notice that even when you cannot recall when something happened, you still know how it shaped you. Skills remain, preferences remain, reactions remain. Memory continues to work beneath awareness, supporting daily life without calling attention to itself. Neuroscience shows that repeated recall strengthens some pathways while allowing others to weaken. This is not loss, but balance. Networks that are rarely used gradually reduce their activity, conserving energy. The mind is not failing. It is resting unused paths. Fading memories often make room for presence. When the mind is less occupied with recalling details, attention settles more easily in the present moment. There is less comparison, less checking, less searching. Awareness becomes softer and more immediate. Emotional memory tends to outlast factual memory. You may forget the words of a conversation, but remember how it felt to be understood. This emotional residue continues to guide choices and relationships. What matters most remains accessible. The hippocampus, a key structure in memory, constantly reshapes stored information. Over time, memories are redistributed across broader networks. As they spread, they lose sharp edges but gain stability. What remains is durable, flexible and calm. You might find comfort in knowing that forgetting is not random. The brain releases information that no longer serves prediction or safety. This selective fading protects mental clarity. It reduces overload and supports rest. As memories thin, identity does not vanish. Identity is not built from detail alone. It arises from repeated patterns, values, and responses. These are deeply ingrained and slow to change. They persist quietly even when specific recollections drift away. You may experience moments of recognition without recall. A face seems familiar. A place feels known. A sound brings ease. This is memory functioning without narrative. It guides you gently without demanding explanation. Sleep plays a role here as well. During rest, the brain revisits stored information and decides what to keep accessible. Some memories are softened intentionally, reducing emotional charge. Others are integrated into broader understanding. This happens without effort or awareness. There is nothing you need to do to manage this process. You do not need to hold on tightly. Memory knows how to release what it no longer needs. Letting go is part of how stability is maintained. As you rest now, you may allow thoughts to slow. If a detail slips away, nothing is lost. The influence remains. The lesson remains. And the feeling remains. Breathing can deepen. Muscles can soften. Fading memories also reduce emotional strain. Painful experiences lose intensity as detail dissolves. What remains is perspective rather than distress. The mind protects itself by allowing time to smooth sharp impressions. This process supports resilience. By releasing precise detail, the brain prevents constant reactivation of past stress. Memory becomes adaptive, not burdensome. It carries forward what supports balance. You may notice this in daily life. You remember that something once mattered, but it no longer grips you. This is memory completing its work. It has delivered understanding and can now rest. Social memory follows the same pattern. Shared experiences may blur in detail, yet bonds remain strong. Relationships are supported by accumulated feeling rather than perfect recall. Connection does not depend on precision. As years pass, memory becomes more symbolic. Events stand for lessons. People stand for feelings. Places stand for phases of life. This abstraction allows memory to remain meaningful without being heavy. You may feel this as a gentle spaciousness. The mind feels less crowded. Silence becomes easier. Attention rests without searching. This is not emptiness. It is calm. Sleep reminder here. There is nothing you need to remember right now. Nothing to review. Nothing to hold. Let your breathing slow. Let the body sink gently. Memory can continue its quiet work without you watching. The brain's default state favors efficiency. It keeps what predicts safety, comfort, and meaning. Everything else is allowed to fade naturally. This is not forgetting who you are. It is remembering what matters. Even creative thought benefits from fading memory. By loosening strict recall, the mind can recombine ideas more freely. Flexibility increases. Rigid detail gives way to insight. You may also notice that fading memories allow forgiveness. When sharp details soften, emotional responses follow. The past becomes less reactive. Peace becomes easier to access. This chapter is not about loss. It is about trust. Trust that memory does not abandon you. Trust that what remains is enough. Trust that influence is stronger than detail. As this understanding settles, you may feel lighter. Thoughts slow. Awareness widens. Memory continues quietly in the background, shaping without demanding attention. In the next gentle movement of this journey, you may drift toward how memory eventually becomes background presence rather than active effort, continuing its work while you rest deeply within it. You arrive at a place where memory no longer feels like something to examine. It becomes an environment instead, quiet and supportive, like air around you. You are inside it, held gently, without needing to understand its structure or direction. Memory is simply present, doing its work without drawing attention. The brain is always active, yet rarely demanding. It holds what helps you move through the world and releases what no longer needs to be carried. This balance happens continuously, without effort. Even now, as you rest, memory is adjusting softly in the background. Neuroscience shows that memory is not a fixed archive, but a living process. It changes shape depending on rest, the emotion, and repetition. What remains accessible is what aligns with stability and meaning. Everything else is allowed to drift, leaving space behind. You may notice that as attention softens, memory feels less like recall and more like atmosphere. It is not something you reach for, it surrounds you. Familiarity replaces detail, ease replaces effort. The mind prefers patterns over lists. It remembers rhythms, routines, and feelings more readily than exact sequences. This is why comfort can appear without explanation. The brain recognizes safety long before it names it. As experiences accumulate, memory integrates them into broader understanding. Individual moments blend into themes. These themes guide behavior quietly. You do not need to remember why something feels right. The feeling itself is enough. During rest, especially during sleep, the brain reviews without judgment. It strengthens connections that support balance and weakens those that create noise. This is not learning in the traditional sense. It is settling. Memory works best when it is not forced. Pressure tightens recall and disrupts flow. Calm allows memory to organize naturally. When you stop trying to remember, memory often becomes clearer in its own time. You may feel this now as a gentle slowing. Thoughts stretch out. Gaps between them widen. Memory does not disappear in these spaces. It breathes. There is no central place where memory lives. It is distributed across systems. Sensations, movements, emotions, and expectations all store experience. This makes memory resilient. If one pathway quiets, others continue the work. Habit memory supports you constantly, but you do not recall how to breathe, how to sit, how to rest. These memories are embedded deeply, requiring no attention. They free the mind to soften. Emotional memory also guides gently. You may not remember a specific moment of comfort, but you recognize the feeling when it returns. This recognition is immediate and calming. As memory matures, it becomes less detailed but more stable. This is not decline, it is refinement. Sharp edges soften, leaving understanding behind. The mind values coherence over precision. You may notice that identity feels steady even when memories fade. This is because identity is built from repeated patterns, not isolated events. Memory supports who you are without needing to narrate it. Rest allows memory to become background rather than foreground. When memory is not demanding attention, neither awareness can settle into the present. Breathing becomes slower. Muscles release. There is nothing you need to remember right now, nothing to revisit, nothing to prepare. Memory is already doing what it needs to do. The hippocampus and cortex exchange information constantly, even during quiet wakefulness. This exchange smooths experiences into long-term understanding. It happens gently, without awareness. Memory also benefits from stillness. When stimulation decreases, integration increases. Silence gives memory room to settle. You may sense this as a widening calm. Thoughts drift without urgency. Awareness rests without searching. Final sleep reminder here. You do not need to hold on to these ideas. You do not need to remember this chapter. Memory will keep what matters and release the rest. Let breathing slow naturally. Let the body sink. The brain's default mode supports reflection without effort. In this state, memory weaves experience into meaning softly. This mode becomes more active as you relax. Over time, memory becomes less about retrieval and more about presence. You know who you are without recounting how you became that way. Memory supports this knowing quietly. Even creativity emerges from this resting state. When memory is relaxed, connections form freely. Insight arises without force. You may notice that peace increases as memory quiets. Fewer comparisons arise. Less checking occurs. Awareness becomes gentle and continuous. Memory does not need supervision. It has evolved to balance retention and release. Trusting this process allows deeper rest. As the journey concludes, memory becomes something you lean into rather than analyze. It holds you as you drift. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many lives unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or stories. They've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.